Hi, welcome back to the Magnolia Parks recaps. I know it's been a minute, guys. These recaps, I honestly think, take me longer than any other recap I do. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like it should be quick, but I think it's because I'm going through both books, but they take forever. If this is your first video here, you're probably in the wrong spot, because this video is actually going to take place in the middle of these books. My recaps of the Magnolia Parks series are incredibly detailed, and because of that, they take many an hour. And they're going to come in mini apart. And so this is part 2. They're so long. I love doing them. I love Magnolia Parks. It's one of my favorite series. I love chatting about it with you, but they do take forever and a day. I want to cover like literally everything, so it takes a while. Like today's video has 35 single-spaced pages of notes typed up that I'm going to be going through. And I will get through all of them eventually. Jess hasn't even started on Daisy Haites 3, so like, is there really a rush? No. I promise all of the recaps will be out before Daisy Haites 3 is out. Before we jump into it, I want to make a note about something I saw online. Jessa Hastings, the author of Magnolia Parks and Daisy Haites, made a comment about the Magnolia Parks series, and she said, guys, she makes announcements on the Magnolia Parks series on her Instagram kind of often about like the characters and what they would think and what they would feel. She said, I have heard that some people call Magnolia Mags as like a nickname, and I want you to know Magnolia would hate that nickname. And I want Jessa to know, if Jessa's watching this, I know Magnolia would hate that nickname. Oh my gosh, it's not a cute nickname. Magnolia would not like it at all. Unfortunately, I call her Mags in my little brain. I know, it's bad, okay? And I can usually call her Mags, and this probably because Mags is like my nickname for her. If I love a character deeply and profoundly, they get a little nickname. That's just how it goes. And I love Magnolia deeply and profoundly, and so I call her Mags. She doesn't have a good nickname in the series. Like Daisy, I call Days because that's cute and fun. Magnolia never shortens her name. So we're picking up on chapter 19 in the Magnolia Parks book, and we are opening with a chapter on Magnolia. Last we heard, I'll give you like the briefest of recaps with Magnolia. Last we got with Magnolia, she was in their Dartmouth house, and BJ did not come up. Or at least she thought BJ, they just like missed each other. BJ came up first thing in the morning. Magnolia came up later. She got so kind of upset about the fact that BJ wasn't there. She passed out. They had to call Bridget. Bridget came up and she explained kind of the whole situation of what happened on December 3rd and why this is such an important day for BJ and her. And essentially when Magnolia was 16, she got pregnant. They lost the baby. And this is like the day they take to like remember their child. Anyway, we pick up immediately after that. Magnolia is headed back to London with her sister. Magnolia is talking to Bridget, and she's like, you know, Bridget, maybe like BJ has moved on. Like maybe that's why he wasn't here today. Maybe he's moved on. And Bridget says, from you? In no world. Okay, we love Bridget. And then they chat about Jordan for a little bit. Jordan is BJ's girlfriend that he's dating at the current moment. She's Australian and is just like, her existence is so annoying in the series, but she's here. And Magnolia describes her as a bad coffee shop vibes, like the kind of person who would frequent a coffee shop. This is how she explains it. Who would frequent a coffee shop named Eggshellent. And Magnolia thinks that's stupid because Eggshellent makes it sound like you want eggshells in your food. And that's what she kind of gives the vibe of Jordan. I unfortunately fear I might also give that vibe. Troubling. And then she talks about how she's like a little bit threatened by Jordan because of in a way that she's never been threatened by another girl with BJ before, because this is the first girl that BJ has like officially dated. Like they are a couple, they are together. Even if she finds Jordan to be like have bad taste and it just to be a little basic, like it's still a threat because, you know, BJ is with her right now. They are like chatting about reasons that BJ might possibly be with her before Bridget is like, you know what, Magnolia doesn't matter. Like you are a handful, but like BJ will love you forever anyway. So Bridget and her decide to head to Buckley's, which is one of Jonah's clubs. How many clubs does Jonah have? I don't know. A lot. I like would like to have them all listed because I feel like they always are going to a different one. Like they're always at a new club of Jonah's. Magnolia is immediately pretty drunk. She starts drinking pretty quickly, and like Magnolia gets drunk fairly quickly. Tara shows up with the boys, and Magnolia is like a little mad at BJ in the current moment, so she drapes herself over Henry, BJ's brother. Also, Jordan is there, the bane of our existence. Jonah comes over, and Magnolia decides that she's actually fine with Jonah, mostly just because he's less bad than BJ. And then Jonah asks Magnolia, he's like, Magnolia, how do I like win you back? How do I get you to totally forgive me? And Magnolia says, you could find me a time machine and go backwards in it and stop your stupid best friend from being stupid infinity times and stop yourself from being a trickster liar. Trickster liar is such a classic drunk girl phrase. It is. And Jonah's like, hey, couldn't I just like buy you a bag? And Magnolia is like, you used to buy me a bag every week on Baggy Tuesday. And Jonah's like, that's not what that meant. And Magnolia's like, yeah, I didn't hijack it. I made it better. Like, okay, maybe that's not what it did mean, but now it does mean that. And like, that's more fun anyway. And then Magnolia is talking to Jonah and she's like, do you like Jordan? Obviously there's one right answer. Jonah answers almost like half correct, half incorrect. He says, yeah, she's all right. Got nothing on you though. Okay. Magnolia is just like kind of watching BJ and Jordan interact, and BJ is visibly uncomfortable being watched by Magnolia with his girlfriend. He's like, I can't believe the love of my life is watching me with this rando girl. Like, he's very uncomfy with it. Will he make any changes to make that not happen? No, of course not. Have you met this boy? Dumbest one in all the land. And then Henry is like, Magnolia, why are you in such a bad mood tonight? Like, you're a cranky girl. And Magnolia says, I can't tell you why. I told BJ I never would. And Henry's like, you can tell me. You tell me everything. And Magnolia's like, no, not this. I promised BJ I wouldn't. And Henry's like, okay, well, BJ breaks promises all the time. And then BJ winds up coming over. Jordan goes to the bathroom. BJ comes over. Magnolia is still really mad about BJ not showing up on December 3rd. And like, really, that's what this whole evening and all of her crankiness has been about. And BJ says, I thought you weren't coming for December 3rd. And Magnolia says, of course I'm coming for December 3rd. It's our worst day. And then BJ goes, are you sad, Parks? And Magnolia says, I'm always sad, Beach. It is sad. And they have like this sweet little moment. Unfortunately, Jordan comes back. Okay, welcome back, Jordan. Magnolia says to BJ in front of Jordan, do you like my dress? And BJ goes, yeah. And Magnolia goes, I thought of you when I put it on. Which is, what every girl wants to hear someone else say to her boyfriend. And BJ is obviously obsessed with this. He loves that Magnolia's thinking about him. BJ's talking to Jordan and he's like, hey, Magnolia's like really drunk. Like, sorry, she's like kind of a mess. And Jordan is like, yeah, obviously I've seen her. I can see her. She's very drunk. And Jordan is not thrilled about what's happening. Because remember at the beginning of this book, Magnolia is back in London for the first time in like a while. And Jordan has not really experienced Magnolia BJ dynamics at their full height. And so she doesn't know about this. Like, she's new here. She doesn't know the vibe that they're always just like orbiting around each other. Magnolia, we're in Magnolia's head, and she thinks to herself, she's gonna like throw Jordan off the scent. She's gonna trick Jordan into this. And she says to Jordan, I like your dress. And Jordan says, I am wearing jeans. And then Magnolia says, okay, well, great jeans. And then loudly whispers to Henry, loud enough that Jordan can hear her for sure. Doesn't she know denim is the working man's material? BJ and Jordan go off to fight. And meanwhile, it's just Magnolia and Henry. And Magnolia asks Henry, does he love her? And Henry's like, no. And Magnolia is being messy now. She decides to be messy and ask Henry if he loves Tara, because right now there's a love triangle happening between Tara, Jonah, and Henry. And Jessa Hastings could never make me care. I guess actually a common theme. I'm reading ACOTAR for recaps as well right now, and there's like a secondary character love triangle on that one too that they like try to make me care about, and I don't care about it. It's like a very similar love triangle actually between ACOTAR and this book, and I care about neither. You cannot make me care about these secondary characters and their love triangles. I have too much on my plate already with like the main character and their romances. I don't have room for more. Anyway, Henry just responds, you're being a little wrecking ball tonight, aren't you? Then BJ comes back alone, and Jonah's like, where did Jordan go? And BJ said, we had our first fight, thanks to you. He points at Magnolia. We've never fought before. 3 minutes with you, and we're already fighting. And Magnolia's like, maybe you should go after her. And Henry's like, yeah, Beach, maybe you should go after her. BJ does not go after Jordan. He goes to Magnolia instead and says, hey, girl, why are you this drunk? And Magnolia says, you know why. You didn't come. And BJ says, I did. We just missed each other. And Magnolia says, but we never don't do it together. Like, this is our thing that we do together every year. And Jonah is listening. He obviously has no idea what they're talking about. And BJ tries to like brush him aside and be like, this does not really concern you. But Magnolia is like, you know what? We could tell them. I told Bridget, like, we could tell them. And BJ is kind of like surprised by this, but also is not sure how serious she is because she's like pretty drunk. And like, this is not a decision he wants like drunk Magnolia to make. He would like sober Magnolia to make that choice. And Magnolia explains that she had to tell Bridget because Bridget came to rescue her after she passed out in the garden up at Dartmouth. Like, Gibbs, the housekeeper up there, or the house manager or whatever, the guy in charge up there, had to call her. And Beach is like, were you drunk this morning? And Magnolia said, no, I was just crying a lot. ooh. And she watches as like BJ's heart like visibly breaks in front of her. And then Magnolia asks BJ to take her home. Then we switch to BJ's perspective. BJ does take her home. And he's like, probably should have like gone and like patched things up with Jordan, but didn't. Bridget like offers to take care of Magnolia. She's like, I can stay with her. You don't need to. And BJ is like, no. This will take a professional touch. And Bridget says something about like how like BJ is a professional at touching her sister. Okay. Magnolia is like very drunk, and BJ knows that like because of like the December 3rd connection, he needs to be the one taking care of her. And Bridget, of course, knows the December 3rd thing now. She's been told by her sister, and she takes this moment to ask BJ if like he's okay, if he's coping all right. BJ carries Magnolia upstairs to her bed, and as he does this, he thinks about how he had pictured proposing to her on the Spanish Steps in Rome, like just like a different staircase in a different lifetime, that like this would look very different. And now he's like not even allowed to have those thoughts. He's not allowed to think about the fact that like if things had gone well, if he hadn't messed up, they would be married by now. And once they're upstairs, BJ asks Magnolia how she's feeling, and Magnolia says like the prettiest girl in the room, and BJ says to her, in every room, Parks. And then BJ washes her face for her, but he keeps reminding himself, he's like, I've got a girlfriend at home. You can't kiss this girl because you have a girlfriend at home. That's just BJ's inner monologue. He's like really trying his best. And then he sleeps on the floor again because he has a girlfriend at home. And in the morning, Magnolia's like, hello, why are you on the floor? And BJ says, I have a girlfriend. I cannot be sleeping in other girls' beds. I have a girlfriend. Bless his little heart. BJ brings up that like, now that Magnolia is sober, wakes up, she's feeling better. He brings up the fact that Magnolia like kept mentioning December 3rd to everyone last night, and now people are curious. They're asking questions, and she like didn't outright say what had happened, but like people are asking, and they like needed to make a decision about what they're gonna do. And Magnolia's like, oh my gosh, BJ, are you mad at me? And BJ's like, no, I think it's been enough time. I think we can tell them. We probably should. And Magnolia says, are you gonna tell Jordan? And BJ says, yeah, I should probably tell her too. And Magnolia says, no, you should not tell some girl that we've only known one day about this. And BJ's like, I have known her for longer than a day. We've been dating for longer than a day. Like, we have been together for like months at this point. And Magnolia makes it very clear that like she does not want Jordan included in this. BJ is like, okay, that's like, it's fair, like agrees to it. So they book a place for dinner for that night, and BJ's like, okay, well, I have to go talk to Jordan because we had a big fight last night, and now I have to tell her she's not invited to dinner. So like, gotta go deal with that. And they like part ways. When he arrives at Jordan's house, Jordan is like, hey, you didn't even call me last night. Like, you didn't even check to make sure I got home safe. And BJ's like, okay, well, you didn't call me either. We both have phones at work. And Jordan is like, were you with her? And BJ is like, yeah, she really needed me last night. And Jordan was like, I needed you. And BJ was like, for what? What did you need me for? And Jordan says, for what? I'm your girlfriend. Do you know how embarrassing it is to stand up there watching your ex falling all over you and you're just laughing? And then she says, she's the love of your life. And BJ doesn't really know how to respond to this because, like, she's the one who said it, but, like, it's true. What do you want him to do? Pretend Magnolia's not the love of his life? There's just, like, too much history between him and Magnolia, and he, like, can't explain it, nor would he. And also, Magnolia's the love of his life. He thinks to himself, I catch her eye to soften the blow. Try to make it sound like having too much history with Magnolia Parks isn't the mounted deer I'll hang on the hallway of who I am. Like, loving her isn't the first thing you see when you walk in the front door of me. Okay. Yeah, probably don't say that out loud. And then he's like, don't worry about it, Jordan. Like, she's only here for a couple more days. She has to tie up a couple loose ends, and then she'll be out of here. We're doing dinner tonight, and then, like, we're leaving. And then she's going to be gone. You won't have to deal with this anymore. Because remember, BJ doesn't know, at this point, Magnolia has actually gotten a job back in London. Magnolia is planning to stay in London, but BJ does not know this yet. And it is going to mess up all his plans and schemes. And then Jordan, being petty, says, can you at least tell her dress is like so last season or something? And BJ says, no, because I do not have a death wish. Also, Magnolia would know. Magnolia would say, you're incorrect. This dress is not so last season. Stupid boy. Next scene is them having this big dinner where they tell everyone about Billy, and BJ gets there early because he wants to make sure that Magnolia doesn't walk in alone, that she has someone with her the whole night. But Magnolia is late. She also wanted to make sure she didn't walk in alone. And BJ thinks, in fact, that she's late enough that she probably hoped that BJ would tell them before she had to. And she arrives wearing one of BJ's sweaters. And BJ asks her, how's the weather, Parks? Magnolia says, a bit choppy. And BJ's like, don't worry, like, they can't ground us. They can't be mad at us. We're just letting them know something that happened a while ago. Like, they're nervous, but like, it's time. They're holding hands as they walk back to the table. And Jonah's like, are you guys back to... And they're like, no. Not yet. And they tell the whole story of how Magnolia got pregnant on accident in high school and how they lost the baby and how they're like, remember that trip you thought we took to Cannes? Actually, we were dealing with it. No one knows except us two and Rebecca Barnes, Christian and Jonah's mom. We love Rebecca Barnes. She's the Queenie McQueenieson of the series. Jonah in particular is like pretty mad that BJ never said anything to him because BJ and him are best friends. And BJ is just like, you know, it wasn't a very easy thing to say. And then he also lets them know that like this does not leave this room. Like it is inner circle conversations. The only other person who knows besides the people at this table is Bridget, Rebecca Barnes. Jonah's like, why does my mom know about this? And their mom knows because Rebecca Barnes like arranged for all the medical side of things because she is in crime, organized crime. And so she has access to hospitals that are not on public records. And Tara's like, we're not telling Jordan. And Magnolia says no. And Jonah says, I would have found your lost years a lot less annoying if I knew about this. And Magnolia's like, what, pray tell, are our lost years? And Jonah smiles at her and says, you're in them, baby. Right now. The lost years are the years you guys aren't together. We're assuming they'll be found years later. There was like together years, the lost years, and then back together years later. And then Tara asked, did the baby have a name? And it comes out like that the name is Billy. And Tara asked that it's like a beautiful name, but like why? And Magnolia explains that their very first date was at her grandparents' anniversary party. And BJ and her danced to Billie Holiday's I'll Be Seeing You. And so, the whole table like raises a glass to Billy. And then afterwards, BJ and Magnolia go on a walk together just to kind of like debrief. And BJ's like, are you happy with how it went? And Magnolia's like, yeah. And BJ's like, okay, have a good trip tomorrow. I'll see you later. Have so much fun in New York. Bye. And Magnolia's like, actually, I have something to tell you. I'm not going back to New York. I was offered the style editor position and I stayed here, so I'm staying. And BJ's like, oh, congratulations. Like, he does not respond excitedly. And Magnolia is like, okay, thank you. Like, she obviously expected BJ to be overjoyed that she was remaining in London. And he just seems kind of deer in headlights. Both of them are clearly not happy with the other's reaction, and they like don't know what to do because like BJ has like really been counting on Magnolia to leave so he can get the rest of his life in order. And now that he's not leaving, he doesn't know what to do with himself. And Magnolia had been hoping that BJ would be like so excited to immediately call Jordan up on the phone and dump her. That obviously didn't happen as well. And Magnolia says that to him. She's like, you're being rude to me. And I understand that you have a girlfriend, like, fine, message received, like, you are not interested in me anymore, and, like, you don't need me, you don't want to be around me. And then she's like, actually, you know what, F you. You've been so nice to me these past few days, all touchy and sweet. And BJ's like, okay, well, we have been trying to, like, work through some trauma. We've been trying to, like, heal ourselves, so, like, that's part of the reason. And Magnolia said, no, you did it because you knew I was leaving. And BJ says, that's not true. But also you were leaving. Like, I was like acting as if you were leaving because you were supposed to be leaving. And Magnolia's like, okay, well now I'm not. And BJ says, great. And Magnolia says, great. And as she walks away, Magnolia looks back over her shoulder and says, you have a great night with your girlfriend, BJ. Cut to Daisy. We're in the Daisy book now. We start with Christian and we get kind of Christian's perspective on this dinner. He was obviously there, one of the inner circle that got told the news about Billy. And it really changes his perspective on the whole Magnolia romance, especially the like fight he had with her back in March and everything that had happened with them in New York. We get this kind of like vague gesturing to like something happening while Magnolia was in New York. We don't get the specifics yet. Then he goes to talk to BJ. Things are like really tense between Jonah and Henry because of the whole Tara thing. This just like continues to get commented on. But he goes and talks to BJ and he's like, hey, I wanted to apologize because obviously like I didn't know about the baby. And like if I had, I would have acted differently. And BJ says, it doesn't matter. You knew who she was to me and it didn't stop you. You wanted her to. Like, that's what this was all about. Like, it doesn't matter about the baby. Like, Magnolia has been mine regardless. Then BJ's kind of like a hot mess express because Magnolia's in town and he doesn't know what to do with himself now that she's here. Like, he doesn't know what next step should look like. And then Christian texts Magnolia about the Billy situation and he does make the whole thing about him. Don't even worry, he does. Don't worry, he would never let it be about Magnolia. And he also, again, references this New York thing, and Magnolia is just, like, kind of having a rough time right now because she is, like, pretty torn up about the fact that BJ wasn't happy she was staying in London. Then we get a Daisy chapter. Daisy, what's our recap for Daisy? Daisy is dating Tiller. She had attempted at the end of the last book to, like, live a normal life, and she had done so for almost a year, but she was targeted by, I don't think we totally know yet who she was targeted by. And one of the other girls that she is going to med school with was shot in a parking garage as like a warning. And so now she's had to move back in with the boys. Tiller is also living with her at her brother's house. And we're so happy because like I love Tills, but you know who I love more than Tills? Julian Haites. So if Tiller cannot get on board with Julian Haites, then I can't get on board fully with Tiller. Is the end of the story. Daisy's up in her room. She's moved back home not that long ago. She can hear the Lost Boys downstairs, and she doesn't know how to interact with them anymore. She doesn't know if she's like welcome to just like go down there. There's this like weird situation in which this is her home, but it like doesn't feel like it. Her room is exactly how it was left when she moved out. Like, they have not touched anything. The housekeepers come in and, like, dusted and cleaned. But, like, besides that, it looks identical. And then Rome comes upstairs to chat with her. And Rome's like, come downstairs. Like, you're up here all by yourself and we're hanging out downstairs. Come on down. And Daisy's like, I don't know how to do this anymore. And Rome's like, you might have left for a while, but this, like, never stopped being your home. Like, this is still your home, and this is still your family. And Daisy asks if they're done not speaking. And Rome is like, sure, unless my girlfriend asks. And Rome is dating Tavi Jukes. Roma, you can't. Dump her. All these boys are the dumbest boys in all the land. They're like fighting so hard for the title. Daisy's mad about him dating Tavi Jukes because Tavi Jukes is like her mortal enemy. And Rome is like, you can't be mad at me. You're dating a cop. I'm like your third choice. You're dating a cop. You're lusting over Christian. And then there's me. I get to date Tavi Jukes if I want. And that is, I mean, like, it's fair. But I like wish he wouldn't. I wish he would try to woo Daisy. I feel like if Rome really put his back into it, he could win her back. Rome tells her to come downstairs because they're playing Sticky Fingers. Daisy comes downstairs just as Julian is about to start the game. And TK is like, well, I don't want to play if Daisy's going to play. She always wins. And then Julian kind of explains the pieces that they are playing for. And they're each worth like tens of thousands of dollars. So Sticky Fingers is this game that is like halfway between Capture the Flag and The Floor is Lava. Where the boys will hide prizes somewhere in the house. And they hide with their paintball guns. And the floor is lava. If you touch it, you're immediately eliminated. And Rome and Daisy, and then you're trying to like find those pieces and like take them. Okay. And if you get the pieces, you're the winner, chicken dinner. Rome and Daisy invented it, and they usually win the game if they're on the same team. I love Sticky Fingers. It's like one of my favorite pieces of Daisy Haites lore is this game, Sticky Fingers. I feel like it comes up a couple times, and every time I'm delighted by it. It's so good. Anyway, they're playing. Daisy and Rome have already gotten the first piece. They're almost getting the second. Daisy's literally hanging off a chandelier, grabbing the ring. That is like the second piece that they're trying to get for Sticky Fingers when Tiller walks in. Boo. You know I love Tills, but this is his worst moment. His worst moment in the whole book series. Okay. Daisy drops from the 18-foot ceilings, but luckily Kikoa and Rome catch her on like one of those drop mats, and obviously she got the ring with her as she fell because she's good at this game. And Tiller's like, what's going on? And Daisy's like, we're just playing a game. We're just having fun, Tills. And then Daisy can sense the vibes. The vibes aren't great. And so she starts to lead Tiller upstairs when Julian is like, hey, we're having dinner together, the three of us. You, me, Daisy, Tiller, Julian, Daisy, later this week. And they get upstairs and Tiller is like, what was that? What was that? He starts singing Lord. And Daisy's like, it's called Sticky Fingers. It's like a bit like Capture the Flag. It's just like a game we play. And Tiller's like, what's the flag? And Daisy pulls out the ring. Daisy is like, I swear Julian got this on an online auction. It is not stolen. Daisy's like, I actually have no idea where he got it. It might be stolen. But like, we don't need to upset the boyfriend right now. And Tiller's like, I go out for one night and I come back and you're playing a game pretending to be a thief? Tiller, get over yourself. And Daisy says, I am a thief. And she explains that, like, she tried to live the normal life. She tried to go to med school and be just a regular girl. But then a girl died. And now her boyfriend is looking at her like she is something on the bottom of his shoe. Like, she is just dirt. And Tiller says, okay, not very nice. And you know what I say to Tiller? Tiller, look at me in my eyeballs. Let Daisy Haites do a little crime as a treat. Just a little crime. She's not murdering anyone. She helped you with that kidnapped kid. Let her rob a little. This wasn't even real crime. This was her just playing in her house. You're being ridiculous. It's truly my least favorite Tiller moment in the whole book because Sticky Fingers is like such a delight and Tiller's being such a buzzkill. And then Tiller's like, by the way, I can't go to dinner with your brother. And Daisy is like, what? And Tiller's like, yeah, he's a criminal. It'll look really bad for me. And Daisy's like, you literally live at his house. So I think that ship has sailed. And Tiller's like, yeah, they're already really mad about that. They're already like, you can't live at his house. And Daisy starts to realize that, like, it's over for them. Like, it's over. Like, things are rapidly coming to a close. She uses this Titanic metaphor, like, kind of throughout the section with Tiller. And she knows at this point that they've hit the iceberg. But Daisy just wants to keep sleeping. And we'll get it again and again. This, like, we're ignoring the fact that this boat is going down and there's nothing to do. Nothing they can do to save it. But Tiller does agree to dinner. Later, I think maybe the next day, Julian knocks on Daisy's door and she screams, and he opens it with a gun out because he's like, oh no, Daisy's injured, or like someone's attacking her. But like, she's just chilling with the dog watching Criminal Minds. She just got startled. And they talk about Tiller and how he didn't like sticky fingers. Boo. Tiller. And then Jules gives her some gold doubloons, or a gold doubloon, which is like a pirate coin, right? And apparently this is the gift he gives Daisy, like, anytime he does anything, like, major and he messes up. He's been doing it since he, like, missed a birthday of hers when she was young. And he apologizes for what he said to her in the hospital. He said it's the worst thing he's ever done. And they like, and Daisy's like, what about this? And what about this? And Julian's like, no, like, saying those things to you in the hospital, worst thing I've ever done. And then they like are starting to, this is like the first time they've like talked through the events that happened at the end of last book, when Daisy essentially like sold Julian out to the cops and then shot herself in the stomach. And Julian asks her, why did you do it, Daisy? How could you do that to me? And Daisy reminds Julian that, like, their dad, as his last words to Daisy, had been that she is her brother's keeper, and he had broken their rules. And Daisy's like, you worked with Mata Chasel. And Julian's like, no, I didn't. And Daisy's like, no, I saw the £2 million transfer. And Julian's like, oh no, that was a poker game. Also, how do you know about that? And they kind of like talk things out. They seem like they're kind of good again. But Daisy's like, I'm not working for you. I'm just living here, just so you know. And Julian's like, I literally never want you to work for me. Like, I would be happy if you never did another job a day in your life. You're the one who keeps worming your way into them. And then he says to her, I missed your face. And then Daisy says, same. Yay! The Haites siblings are back in business. Good. My favorite relationship in these books. Relationship ranking. Julian and Daisy. Number 2, BJ and Magnolia. Is that it? Those are the ones I care about. Those are the ones I care deeply about. There's other things I care about lightly, but like those are my biggies. Then we get a Daisy chapter, and it's the dinner with Julian, Tiller, and Daisy, and Daisy has decided to bring along Jack. There is a character named Jack in this book, and there's a character named Jack in the book. They're not the same person. Confusing choice, but Jack is friends with Magnolia and like part of the like that side of things, and Jack is Daisy Haites' best friend. This chapter opens with, here's the thing about my brother. You can't not like him, which is, I think, true. Julian Haites is so charismatic. I love him. He's done a lot of murders and I don't care. Julian and Daisy rock, paper, scissors to decide where they're going over to dinner. And it is like so sweet. And it's like, they don't even have to talk about it first. They like know exactly like the program, and Jack and Tiller are like Jack and Tiller are watching them. And Jack's like, they're just like this. I would literally lie down on train tracks for them. Like, I love them so much. Julian is laying on like pretty thick at dinner because he can't stand it when people don't like him, which is very Magnolia coded of him. Like, Magnolia and Julian are a similar archetype. In fact, they are very charismatic. People are like really drawn to them, and they hate when people aren't kind of like a little bit obsessed with them. Similar. Julian is asking Tiller about his family and how he got into being a cop, and Tiller's like, well, my dad was a cop. What about you? And Julian says, my dad also got me into this. Oh my gosh, we're both in family businesses. Samey. I got into crime because it's a family business, and you got into copping because it's a family business. How exciting. And then we learned that Julian was like almost a rugby player, like very nearly a professional rugby player, was like offered a professional position, but like he had to step in and take over the family when his father died, and had to take over taking care of Daisy. And then Tiller asked him how he can justify doing crime. He's like, how can you do this when you know it's wrong? And Julian's like, have you ever seen one of those heist movies where they like steal stuff? Doesn't that look like hecka fun? And Tiller's like, but you're doing things that are wrong. And Julian says, according to who? And Tiller says, the law. And Julian starts reciting the Jack Dawson speech from the Titanic. I love waking up in the morning, not knowing what's going to happen or who I'm going to meet or where I'm going to wind up. And Daisy like calls him out on it. And then Julian says, here's the thing. We're all going to die one day. I'm just trying to have fun before I do. And Daisy's like, no, I don't believe that is entirely true. Like, you believe in God. And Julian says, so. And Daisy says, if you believe in God, then it matters how you live. And it's not just about fun on earth. It can't be. You have to be good so you can get into heaven. And Julian says, Daisy face, if you think any of us getting into heaven is predicated on something that we have or have not done, you've misunderstood the entire book. Detrimentally so. And Tiller says, you think you're saved? And Julian says, nah, I doubt it. Probably a bit loved, though. I truly am obsessed. I am truly obsessed with the theology of the Haites family. The Haites family theology, and Magnolia to some extent too. I just love the way that Jessa Hastings in general explores these larger theological topics from this very approachable, everyman sort of understanding, but the way she pairs it with these people and their relationships with religion and with God, I think is really fascinating. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts about Jessa Hastings' works. The next day, a few days later, Christian is over at the compound. We're in his perspective, and he is just hanging out. I think he's playing video games with Julian when Daisy wanders in, and she is waiting on Tiller because Tiller is supposed to take her to the National Gallery, and she she can't do anything really by herself anymore. She has to have security of some variety go with her to literally everything because of the threat against her life. Pretty shortly after she walks downstairs, she gets a call from Tiller, and Tiller is calling to cancel on their date to the National Gallery because he's got work stuff to do. And Daisy had already let Miguel go home because she thought she was hanging out with Tiller, and Julian's like, I have a meeting, but I'll take you right afterwards. And Daisy's like, well, it's not only open till 6, we don't have that long. And then Christian's like, I'll do it. I can do it. And Daisy's like, don't you have plans? And Christian says, nothing important. And Daisy's like, okay, great. And she runs to get her coat. And as soon as she leaves the room, Julian says to Christian, Vanna, no, she's not important. Vanna being Christian's current girlfriend situationship. Apparently not. Christian lets Daisy drive, which is this big thing. Daisy was not able to drive in the normal time frame of things because of the threats against her life. And so getting to drive with Christian is always a nice little treat. And they talk about how Tiller didn't invite her to come home with him for Christmas because his dad is a retired cop and the dynamic seemed weird. I'm sorry, do American cops care about British criminals? I feel as if they would not. Anyway, they talk about Magnolia and how she's moving back to London now. And Christian's like, I really don't care, though. I don't care. I told you last book, I'm over her. Christian is like, I messed up and I want you back. And Daisy's like, I have a boyfriend. And Christian says, I don't care. And then the very end of the chapter, we get a text exchange between Daisy and Tiller in which he's apologizing for canceling her with the fakest excuse ever. No one believed it. No one believed it, first of all. And Daisy's like, no big deal. Christian actually wound up taking me. And Tiller was really mad about that because, obviously it's her ex-boyfriend. Okay, well, if you didn't want Christian to take her, maybe you should have kept your promise and taken her yourself. I have no pity for you, Tiller. I have no pity for you, Tiller. And I'm such a Tiller fan. But he's being the worst. When Tiller does arrive home later that night, he's in a terrible mood. Daisy kind of reflects back on the last couple of days, and she said that he really did enjoy dinner with Julian, and not that he would ever admit it, but obviously Julian did win him over. And Tiller asked about how her day, and Daisy's like, it was fine. And we learned that Daisy is no longer going to medical school, which I think we knew. But Julian has gotten her a tutor to kind of teach her some emergency care, essentially, some field dressing and essentially kind of EMT sort of stuff that will be useful to her when she's working on the boys. And Tiller notices the gold doubloon that Julian got her. It's just sitting on her dresser. And she notes to herself that she's 38 at this point. He's given her over the years. And Tiller asks about it. And Daisy says, oh, Julian gave that to me. And Tiller was like, some coins like those went missing yesterday. And then they fight back and forth about it. And Tiller is like, what am I supposed to do? And Daisy's like, nothing. You can't do anything about this. Even if this is the coin that was stolen and you know it. And Tiller's like, I'm a detective at the NCA and my girlfriend is pocketing stuff she knows is stolen. Julian's a thief. And Daisy's like, I know you like him. And Tiller's like, I do, and I shouldn't. He is a thief. That's as a cop, we should be in opposition. And Daisy's like, you're dating someone just like him. And Tiller says, yeah, well, maybe I shouldn't be. And Daisy essentially starts crying, and she essentially asks him not to break up with her yet. She's not ready. And we get, again, this gorgeous Titanic metaphor. And at this point, her and Tiller are clinging to the life raft. So, the boat is down, and she and Tiller are in the freezing water clinging to a life raft. Back to Miss Magnolia. We were having a family dinner at Magnolia's house, and Uncle Alexi uncle Alexei is in town from Russia. He's this big burly Russian guy. It's like Harley, who's her father, but like Russian. And it's family dinner tonight. Henry's been brought along for some reason, and Ari has brought her newest boyfriend, Eric. Ari, after the divorce with Harley, has kind of been like cycling through boyfriends like fairly quickly. And Marcelly and Harley are also there. And Magnolia announces that she's staying in London. She finally announced it to her family, and she says, me and Bridget are moving out with Tara. And Bridget didn't know that this was the plan. She's not super into the idea initially, but eventually, like, Magnolia wears her down and Bridget relents. BJ is also breaking the news about Magnolia staying in London to Jordan, and she honestly takes the news like fairly well. BJ kind of hoped she would freak out and they could just break up. BJ was like really hoping this would be the reason that they just could end things. And him and Jonah are like talking about Magnolia moving back into town, and BJ talks about how he doesn't want to just break up with Jordan because it would be a bad thing to do. Like, it is not nice to break up with your girlfriend just because your ex-girlfriend moved back into town. And he's like trying to be a stand-up guy. And BJ is like, hey, do you think Magnolia is back for me? And Jonah says, yeah, I think she's back for you, you effing idiot. BJ, you belong together. And Joe says, I don't believe in that true love BS, okay? The Bronte, Shakespearean, soulmate stuff. I think it's the things we say to girls to get laid. But whatever you and Parks have, it's what those idiots were writing about. So end it. Okay, that was me changing all the profanities. Meanwhile, at Magnolia's house, Magnolia is still kind of like fragile after the whole BJ situation. So Henry is trying to convince her to stay home. He's like, Bridget's gonna stay home. You'll have a nice time at home. Everyone else is going out, but like maybe you should just stay home, Mags. To illustrate this, we hear the tale that they had watched Moana that morning, and Magnolia had sobbed over it, and so that like clearly she was not emotionally stable enough to go out to the bar. I'm sorry, Moana is very emotional. I think that's a perfectly reasonable response to Moana. And Magnolia's like, well, if BJ's going to be out there tonight, then I want to be out there. Like, if he's ready, then I'm ready. And she, like, can't fully remember what happened the last time. She went out, except that she woke up on the floor with BJ. They arrive at the club. Magnolia immediately kisses Tara on the cheek. Jordan is sitting right there and already looking uncomfortable. And Magnolia announces to the group, like, I hope you're ready to help us move this weekend. They chat about Magnolia's new job. Jordan tries to be, like, cool and, like, make some, like, small talk about it. And Magnolia turns to Tara and just starts, like, whispering to her just to make Jordan feel left out. Like, she's just being a bully. BJ leans over, and her shirt is kind of unbuttoned, and a new tattoo on his chest is exposed. And he immediately tries to hide it and play it off. But Jordan is like, don't be weird. I love this tattoo. It's a dead Bambi. Isn't that so cool? It's my favorite. And Magnolia is just like, wow. Oh my gosh. Is it? That is, wow. Obviously her feelings are hurt because like her and like she is like the deer. She's always a deer. And she knows it and BJ knows it. Later, BJ tries to come talk to Magnolia about it, but she's not interested in talking to him. She's mad about the tattoo. And she says to him, you have a girlfriend, remember? You made that abundantly clear to me the other evening. You killed me off on your chest, and it's your girlfriend's favorite tattoo. So F off, BJ. Go talk to her. Go plan a little day trip up to Dartmouth together. Make a day of it. Take a chainsaw, why don't you? And BJ says, don't you ever say that to me. Like, you can be mad at me, but like Dartmouth and the willow tree and like Billy, all of that is like his pain as well. And he is like, no. You can be mad at me about the Jordan stuff. You can be mad at me about the tattoo stuff. But don't insinuate that I would like ruin something that is important to both of us. And Magnolia says, or what? You'll kill me? Because the dead Bambi. You get it. Then Rush Evans appears. And we learn that Tom is still not speaking to Rush Evans because of Rush's fling with Magnolia. And they talk about BJ. So, about Rush's, like, his girly, Montana, I think is her name. I believe is the implication here. And I think we're supposed to believe that they're in true love. And then Rush says, does Ballantine know you broke up with Jack for him? And we learn that Tom, this is like very disjointed, okay? These are all just the pieces of information we learn in this conversation. We learn that Tom also has a dead deer tattoo, that him and BJ got it together, ? Truly the power of Magnolia Parks. And Rush agrees to take Magnolia home just to make BJ jealous. And then in the text messages to Henry later, it seems like Magnolia hooked up with Rush that night. And like they had hooked up when they were back in New York, and they're hooking up again now that he's in town in London. My notes are a little foggy there. BJ goes home that night and he's sad because he made Magnolia sad. He's the worst. He's so dumb. Bless his sweet baby heart. He's having a really bad time because he made Magnolia sad. And then Jonah's talking to him, and Jonah's like, wasn't the whole point of that tattoo to make Magnolia sad? And no, BJ's like, no, the point of the tattoo was liberation. Okay. And BJ's like, I gotta get it removed. And Jonah's like, okay, perfect. It'll take about 2 or 3 to 5 years, which is probably how long it's gonna take for you to figure your stuff out to get back with Magnolia at this rate. Then he brings up Rush Evans, and they ask Joe if he thinks that Rush and Magnolia hooked up. And Jonah is like, yeah, obviously they did. It's like pretty clear they did. And then he shows BJ a paparazzi picture from the morning after. And it's Magnolia and Rush like eating breakfast together. And BJ's trying to figure out how to win Magnolia back without directly having to talk to her or break up with his girlfriend. He's like, how do I trick her into being back together with me, but still get to keep my pride perfectly intact? He can't figure out a way. And then Jordan appears, and BJ tries to cancel their triple-double date to help the girls move. And Jordan is like, no, like, we're going on this date. Like, we already agreed. And she's able to, like, win that conversation because he doesn't need to go help his ex-girlfriend move. And then we do get moving day for Magnolia and the girlies. She's obviously hired movers, so, like, there's no real reason for them to all be there. There's nothing for them to do, even though the boys come over. BJ did not come. He went with Jordan on that date. Bushka does come over. This is one of my favorite scenes. I love Bushka. She's wearing stuff that she stole from Magnolia, and Magnolia says to her, what are you even doing here? You have literally no upper body strength or lower body strength or strength of character. And Bridget is like, Magnolia, you can't say that about our grandma. And Magnolia is like, she was a military defector. And Bridget says, from the Soviet Union. Bushka says, yes, bad kisser, not good to stay. And Bridget says, who are you talking about? Joseph Stalin? And Bushka says, how old do you think I am? And Magnolia says, very? And Bridget says, yes or no on Stalin. And Bushko just nods. And then Jonah, overhearing all this, Jonah says, would you have stayed if he was a good kisser then? And Bushko says, is wrong to say probably yeah. I'm obsessed with Bushka. She's my queen. After the movers and Bushka leaves, Joe comes back to check on Magnolia. They chat about whether Magnolia will ever be able to, like, fully forgive Jonah. And, like, she will. Don't even worry about it, Joe. And then Magnolia asks about why BJ didn't come, and Jonah's like, well, he has a girlfriend. Okay, raise your hand if you care. I don't see anyone raising their hands. Does anyone care that BJ has a girlfriend? No one cares. Jonah's like, but here's the tea, Magnolia. Lean in close, because I think he's going to break up with her so soon. Yay! It's not going to work. The day after the move, Jonah, Henry, and Magnolia go out to lunch together. And Magnolia's thinking about Henry and the Henry, Joe, Tara love triangle. But she doesn't bring it up. Okay. I don't know why I told you about it then. Then they start talking about how Ari is like a cougar. And Jonah's like, she's kind of hot. And Magnolia's like, she looks like me. Like, we have the same eyes. And then Jonah looks at Magnolia's eyes and realizes he'd just been, like, commenting on how beautiful Ari's eyes are. He looks at Magnolia's eyes and he's like, ew. And then Magnolia's like, don't point at me and go, ew. And then, all of a sudden, someone comes over to the table. It's Perry Lorcan. And Perry and Paley were, like, besties. And so Perry knew about the fact that Paley had cheated with BJ. Both of them went to Spain after the whole, like, BJ Paley reveal. Paley still lives in Spain, and Perry is living with her, but Magnolia is, like, immediately uncomfortable with him being around, like, in general. And Perry's like, hey, I'd like to chat and kind of, like, smooth things over between us. And Magnolia is like, no, you're Paley's best friend, which means I'm not interested in being your friend. And Perry's like, you're out to lunch right now with Jonah, who is BJ's best friend. And Magnolia gets, like, really upset with, like, the whole situation. And she is thinking about the fact that, like, all these people were looking out for BJ and we're looking out for Paley in this situation, and, like, no one was looking out for her in this situation, even though she was the only one who did nothing wrong. And Magnolia talks about the story that she had found out about BJ, that BJ had told her about this time that Perry had tried to get Paley and BJ to kiss when they were in Paris, when BJ was really high. And it was about a year after the breakup, and she explains that it was, like, revealed in a letter that BJ had written her. And they leave Perry behind, and the boys are surprised by the fact that BJ wrote her letters. Like, none of them knew about that. And Magnolia thinks about the fact that she had never written back to any of them, that he had, like, confessed, like, a lot. He had spent a lot of time, like, writing these letters to her, kind of confessing everything. And she had never written back, and she thinks about how different things would have been if she had written back. And she thinks, like, maybe BJ wouldn't be with Jordan. And the boys are like, don't even worry about it. Like, we're in the home stretch. We're almost there. But, like, besties, we got a lot of book left. We are almost there. And then we get this text message exchange between Parks and BJ, and she thanks him for not kissing Paley that night in Paris. And he's like, okay. And then we get a BJ chapter. The BJ chapter starts like this. I tried to break up with her. I'll start there. BJ needs to break up with Jordan. He knows this, and he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. He doesn't know how to break up with anyone. He's never had to break up with a girlfriend before. His only girlfriend besides Jordan has been Magnolia, and that ended not with like a formal breakup. That ended with like the cheating happening. And he like literally is like Googling, reading the WikiHow article on like how to break up with your girlfriend. And he like he like picks a neutral place for them to meet and break up. And he gets to the cafe and he walks in and she's already crying. And he's like, no. He gets there, he sits down, and she's crying because her parents are getting divorced. And BJ doesn't know what to do. Obviously, he can't break up with her right now. That would be really mean. His Google search did not cover this. This was not listed in the WikiHow article. Also, Jordan's sister flooded their apartment the other night and they need to move out because it messed with the electrical. And Jordan's like, can I stay with you? So not only has he not broken up with his girlfriend, now his girlfriend wants to move in with him. And BJ obviously is like, yeah, I mean, I have to check with Jonah first, but I'm sure that's fine. Like, that's really the only choice you have in this situation. But he's internally like freaking out because he really was going to break up with her and then immediately go find Magnolia and kiss her on the mouth. Like, they had dinner plans tonight and he was going to go make out with her at dinner. And now he can't because he has a stupid girlfriend still. Devastating. Instead, he has to bring Jordan with him to dinner because she's living with him. And Joe sees them walking together and he's like, what the fuck, BJ? He's like, what the? He's trying to like mouth this so Jordan doesn't see. Jordan's trying to play like so nice and complimentary. She compliments Magnolia's shirt and she's upset. Magnolia is so upset the fact that BJ is here with Jordan that she won't even tell Jordan the name of her shirt. And Jordan brings up the fact that she's going to move in with them. And Magnolia looks like she's about to cry. She drops her phone into her plate of food and then just starts like laughing to cover up the fact that she's about to cry. It's very messy very quickly. And BJ's trying to like delay the convo. And he's like, I haven't had a chance to talk to Joni yet. We're going to talk about it later. And Magnolia's like, talk about it now. Are you going to move in with your girlfriend, BJ? But then Jack strolls into the restaurant. And Jordan is like very excited to see him. He's like this famous skateboarder, I believe. And Magnolia waves him over. And Jack is like, oh my gosh, I found you. And Magnolia's like, were you looking for me? And Jack says, yep. And then Jack introduces himself to the table. Next thing BJ knows, Magnolia and Jack are holding hands. And Jack is saying to Magnolia, can I bring you back to my hotel? And Magnolia says, you can try. And she's grabbing her purse. Like she's leaving with Jack. And they're walking together when Jack looks back over his shoulder and then says to BJ, right? I've heard a lot about you, man. It's good to put a face to it. And then Magnolia and Jack leave the bar together. Christmas time! It's Christmas Eve brunch at the Wolseley, a tradition for the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle? Too many Akatar recaps. The box set. Except last year, Magnolia's got a big old hickey on her neck from Jack. The group discusses, obviously, the fact that Magnolia is clearly hooking up with Jack. And Magnolia explains that her and Jack actually dated for like 4 months when she was in New York. And she also brings up the fact that her and Christian kind of hooked up when she was in New York as well. And Christian is like, hey, Magnolia, I thought we were going to keep that on the DL. I didn't think we were going to bring that up for everyone in front of the whole crew. And BJ is like really playing it cool. He's like, whatever, you guys can hook up if you want. Magnolia still remembers that night that Christian and her like nearly slept together, but he was still in love with Daisy and Magnolia was still really in love with BJ. And then Tara changes the topic to Magnolia Parks' new job, which is a much less volatile topic. And then Magnolia asks about Jordan. And BJ is like, you know what? I'm actually so excited to spend Christmas with my girlfriend, which hurts Magnolia's feelings because they always spend Christmas together, her and BJ. But now he's going to spend it with Jordan. And BJ's immediately apologetic. He wishes he wouldn't have done it, but the damage has already been done. There's no way to undo it. We switch to BJ's perspective, and he is still reeling about kind of this New York revelation and the fact that she's with Jack and she had been with Christian and everything and everyone that Magnolia had been up to while she was in New York. And he immediately goes to pick a fight with Christian after brunch. And BJ's like, how could you do that to me? And Christian's like, I don't know how to get this through your head, but you need to understand that not everything is about you. That wasn't about you. And BJ says, she is always about me. That's correct. What are you supposed to do? That's correct. And Christian like explains himself in his headspace going into this. And he's like, hey, the thing is, everything for her is about you, but this wasn't about you for me. Does the difference there make sense? Because I actually think that's a really great clarifying point, Christian. And BJ's like, well, you could have told me. And Christian was like, yeah, because historically you've always taken you've always taken the relationship between me and Parks so well. And then Henry comes over and he's like, are you guys fine? Like, are you guys going to fight? Then Henry goes on to talk to BJ, and he's like, it seems like you really can't be possessive over Magnolia when you've had an affair and you have a whole ass living girlfriend. So, seems a little unfair. And BJ's like, you could take my side literally one time since you're my actual brother. And Henry's like, I might try that if you weren't wrong most of the time. And BJ's like, that's not true. You're just under her thumb. And Henry laughs and he goes, right. I'm the one under Magnolia's thumb. Switch to the Haites. We're going to get the Haites Christmas. We get Christmas Eve brunch from Christian's perspective. It's essentially the whole thing. We get a little bit more details on the New York hookup from his POV. He was visiting back in March with Henry. Henry and Lucia had really hit it off. So Christian and Magnolia were kind of like left to their own devices. And they decide to like walk back to Magnolia's apartment together, leaving Henry behind. And Magnolia is like walking backwards in her high heels. She's pretty drunk at this point. And she falls. She's like falls down and skins her knee. And she also tears a tendon. It turns out, we don't know this they don't know this at the time, but like later it comes out, she like did hurt herself pretty badly. And so Christian carries her home. And that was like a big mistake because their faces are just like too close together. And they get back to her apartment. They're in the elevator and they almost kiss. But then Christian is thinking about Daisy and Magnolia is thinking about BJ. And he's just like, he can't do it and neither can she. And we like truly love that growth for him. Back to the present at Christmas Eve brunch. We see the whole conversation again, especially that little fight between Christian and BJ. Except from Christian's POV, this time it really is mostly just his annoyance about BJ and Magnolia once again falling into the cycle of hurting each other and how just like irritating it is that they can't figure out their stuff and like get their lives in order. And then at the very end, Christian texts Julian and asks to come over. At first, Julian is like, yeah, for sure. But then he mentions that Daisy and Tiller are fighting. And then he says, like, never mind, you can't come over. And so Christian goes to hang out with Vanna. Okay, we were making good progress on the Daisy situation. We were. And you're like, I want to be with you. You have a boyfriend, but like break up with your boyfriend. I'm bored. But now you're going over to Vanna's house. What is Daisy supposed to do with that? Have you thought about that? No. It's Christmas. We're in Daisy's perspective. Christmas is really quiet and Daisy doesn't love it. Most of the boys went home and Julian just winds up spending the day like following Daisy around the kitchen, like being annoying. On Christmas morning, they watch Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas as per tradition. And Julian even wears the matching pajamas that Daisy laid out for him on his pillow, though he will not take a photo with her. Okay. After church, they usually go to the Brambrillos for Christmas Eve, like lunch. For Christmas lunch, but Rome is bringing Tavi and Daisy has no interest in spending Christmas with Tavi Jukes. So they're skipping. And Daisy thinks about how weird it is that she's not spending Christmas with Tiller, like her boyfriend of almost a year. But she's like, I mean, it's not like absurd. He like never brings me to anything social with any of his friends or any of his family. He like really keeps me a secret that he is ashamed of. So I should be used to it, I guess. And she tells the story about how she like once bumped into Tiller when he was out with his friends at a bar and how it was like so weird and how she just like felt like she was being hidden and she like really hates it. Daisy gets all dressed up for church knowing she will probably see Christian because they go to the same Christmas church. And she does see him there, but she actively ignores him. She focuses on the baby Jesus and how Christmas is celebrating like his slow demise. Again, really interesting like theology of Daisy Haites. And she's thinking about the fact that like baby Jesus is like sent here with like knowing full well that like fairly shortly he'll have to die and how that's like sort of a bummer. And it's like sort of weird that we're like, woohoo, welcome, happy birthday, we're gonna kill you soon. And she's thinking about the fact that like Jesus died when he was 33 and that's only 2 years older than Julian. Fascinating. I love them so much. And Julian, like Daisy has like talked to Julian about this and how like weird kind of like feelings around Christmas, and Julian's like, Daisy, again, you're missing the point. Christian comes up to them afterwards and gives Daisy a hug. The Haites crew, Joe, Christian, and Rebecca Barton is with them as well. Like hear that the Haites are like spending Christmas alone, and they invite them back to their house. And Daisy and Julian come over. They get the ham that Daisy was going to make at their house, and they bring it over to the Haites' house. And Daisy cooks in their gorgeous little kitchen. Christian is like hanging out and chatting with her, and they're like chatting about what present they got, their best presents. And Christian says his favorite present is having my best friend in my kitchen at my mom's house. Okay, sweet. And then the Haites' dad appears, Judd, and Christian introduces Daisy, but then like the dad like wanders off. Daisy's like, that was weird. Like, normally dads love me. And Christian's like, well, he's not much of a dad anyway. And Daisy, as like this whole Christmas is unfolding, she thinks about how this is like her favorite Christmas that she's had in like years. It feels like so warm and like family oriented in a way that she hasn't like really experienced in a long time. Callum Barnes is also there, and he's Rebecca's youngest brother, and he makes Daisy really uneasy, which is like not a great sign, because like Daisy is not made uncomfortable very easily. She is around bad men like most of the time. That's like kind of the MO of being a Haites. So this is not her favorite. And then he comments on the fact that Daisy is dating a cop. Callum does. Okay, keep it to yourself. Then Judd Hemez asks about Daisy and Christian's relationship, and Daisy explains that they used to date but don't anymore. And Judd is like, why'd you break up? Did he mess up then? And Daisy says no, at the same time that Christian says yes. And Julian's like, actually, it was my fault. I did something last year that Daisy really struggled with, so she decided to leave everything. Took a step back. The man, okay, and this is why Julian Haites is everyone's favorite. If you don't like Julian Haites, I think he might be reading a different book series than me. He's such a gem. The table starts to get a little tense. The vibes are getting a little weird, and Daisy has to see Christian's room, just mostly to get away from everything. And she goes up to his room. They're talking about Tiller, and Christian's room is like very much a young boy's room. And he explains that like he moved out when he was 11 to go to Varley, and like his parents just like never redid it, and so like it still looks like an 11-year-old boy's room. And while they're up in this room, Tiller calls Daisy, and obviously Tiller is like, "You're not at your house. Where are you?" And you know, Daisy explains that she's at the Hemez house, and Tiller is so annoyed that she's with Christian at the Hemez house. Bestie love, you don't get a say. If you don't invite her to your family Christmas, she gets to go where she's invited. Like, you're being the worst. The worst, Tills. And Tiller's like, I'm gonna fly back early, because at this rate, you're gonna kiss him by New Year's Eve. And then he hangs up. Ew. And then Daisy and Julian head home, even though Christian doesn't want to see them go yet. Christmas, BJ's version. It's Christmas Day. BJ is obviously dreading spending Christmas with Jordan, but like, what is he supposed to do? She's his girlfriend. It's truly like BJ's being held hostage. They spend the day with the Valentine family, and BJ's sisters are not into Jordan as a Magnolia replacement. They're giving her the stink eye all afternoon. At the end of the night, Jordan and BJ are back home, and BJ's like, I gotta go on a run. Where does he run to? But the Holland Park house, like the Parks family house. And he doesn't know her new address, but luckily Magnolia is still over at her parents' house. And he stands outside for about 15 minutes before Bridget actually spots him. She's the one who spots BJ as like Magnolia and her like go to leave. And we learn that last year on Christmas, he came to her house and tried to like fight Harley to see her. And Harley like wouldn't let him pass, and he like glimpsed Magnolia very quickly, but then Tom England was there and was like, look, you have to go home. You can't do this. But this time Magnolia comes over, and BJ says to her, do you want me to go? And Magnolia says no. Then they walk and they talk about how broken they are and how they can't figure out how to make things work between them. How like they both know that they are supposed to be together, but they just don't know how to make it work. And when they get back to her place, BJ pulls out her present. It's a bow necklace. It's the same bow necklace that he got her as like the very first gift he'd ever given her when she was like 15, and she lost it in a club in Greece, and they don't make it anymore. Tiffany doesn't make it anymore, but he found it at a like a pawn shop, and he bought it for her. He also has the tattoo of the necklace on his thumb. Like, it's a really important symbol for both of them, and Magnolia obviously loves it. It's like such a beautiful gift. And Magnolia invites him inside, and BJ thinks to himself he can't go inside because then I'll have cheated on the only 2 girlfriends I've ever had. And so he has to say no, and immediately Magnolia like is hurt by this, and she turns around and goes inside. But BJ calls her on the phone, and they're talking on the phone for a bit, and then Magnolia comes outside. She's already wearing the necklace. And BJ thinks to himself, and just for a second, we could pretend that nothing happened. I didn't hurt her. She didn't mess me up. We didn't lose a baby. She didn't run away. We're together. It's Christmas. The years spin around us like a hands on a clock. I could drown in what ifs if I let myself. Might as well. I'll be drowning in her anyway for the rest of my life. Happily, too. What a way to go. What a life. Her eyes flicker up to mine as she waits for me to kiss her. I can't. Because I love her. Because she deserves better than me with a girlfriend I snuck away from to see her. Because I don't know if I'll ever be good enough anymore. I don't know how to unhurt her how I did. I don't know if I'll ever know. And so they don't kiss, and they part ways. The next day, it's Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, and Magnolia is with Christian. And we find out that like Magnolia and Christian have started like going to the gym together. They're like both really heartbroken, and so they go and work out together. And they also watch disaster movies together. That's like their new thing in their friendship. And so Magnolia's over at like Christian and I don't know who lives in this house. I like do not understand where the boys live. She's over at Christian and Henry's house, maybe. And Henry notices the necklace that BJ got her, and Magnolia explains that like it was a Christmas gift and she lost the original, and they're talking about how everyone knows that she started loving BJ when she was 14 and never stopped. Like, you've always been in love with that boy. Like, we all know it. And Magnolia is like, does BJ know it? And Henry's like, oh, no, I don't think he knows. And the whole crew is like, oh my gosh, what if you just went over there right now, immediately, and you told BJ you loved him, he would probably immediately break up with Jordan. Magnolia's like, really? And they're like, yeah, for sure, that'll be exactly what happens. Go, go, go. And Henry is like, I can drive you over there. And Magnolia's like, no, I need to do it alone. If I could bop Henry on the head, I would. Shoot your brother a text message, Henry. Say, hey, by the way, I'm sending Magnolia over. Magnolia is coming over. Please be nice to her. She's got something to say to you. You don't need to, like, put out the whole thing, but, like, give him a warning. Because he's about to be the stupid... I, like, don't know why you would think... My brother is probably going to react smart, rationally, calmly to this. Has he ever done that before, Henry? No. Give him a warning. Say, hey, Magnolia's on her way. Don't mess this up. He does... None of this happens. Magnolia runs over to BJ's, and this is what she's thinking. It's been one of the great burdens of my adult life, knowing that I love him and he loves me, and we can just not for the life of us figure out how to be together. Needs me, I'm not so sure, but loves me, I've always known that. They're right in a lot of ways about the history. There are those attachments, Bridget's trauma bonds, the willow tree, all the ways we've hurt each other to feel close to each other, all the ways he saved me when we were little, literally and metaphorically, the oysters, the bad men in Greece, the losers in London, nightclubs with busybody hands, the teachers, Marcelly, shitty boys in school with big mouths full of lies. I have all these ties to him. First boyfriend, first kiss, first love, first time, first everything really. How he was my teacher and my partner in so many key life areas, my best friend and my family and my pillow and my quilt. Each of them are like bricks laid in the house I built to love him, but the point is really that house I built isn't a monument for love I used to have. It's a house I want to live inside of still. And Magnolia texts BJ to come down. She like runs all the way to his place and then she texts for him to come down. And then we get more internal monologues. Even when I've hated him, I've loved him. Even on my worst nights in New York, when I was my saddest and my loneliest, I didn't go out and sleep with those boys. I don't really know. I lay in my bed and thought of BJ. I wrapped the thoughts of him around my lost heart like a blanket, let them warm me up, let them tear me to pieces, let myself feel the weight of losing him. And for all the pain and all the sadness, for all the terrible things that happened, I still find myself not regretting it at all. Because he loved me. It'll be what they put on my tombstone, I think. He loved her. I hope that's what they'll say about me. Oh my gosh. This goes so poorly. BJ comes downstairs. He's confused. Mostly because like Magnolia doesn't really exercise. So he's like confused that she was running. And Magnolia's like, I'm in love with you. And BJ's like, hey, are you drunk? Why are you telling me this? And Magnolia, is a little hurt already because she thought he would like kiss her on the mouth. They'd run off into the sunset together because you know what? That's what everyone back at the other apartment said. They said, girl, just go tell BJ you love him and he will kiss you and then you'll run off into the sunset together. And Magnolia's like, Henry said you didn't know that I loved you, so I thought I should come tell you. And BJ was like, I mean, I wasn't sure, not with all the stuff that you've been doing. And Magnolia's like, well, you cheated when you loved me. And BJ's like, yeah, well, I messed up. And Magnolia says, well, I am too, thanks to you. And BJ's like, well, what do you want me to say? And Magnolia says, nothing. Cut to BJ, who's like, what just happened? Again, Henry really just like should have given him a heads up. BJ's like working so hard to be a good guy who doesn't cheat on his girlfriend. Like he's trying to build himself a life that doesn't revolve around Magnolia. And also he's just like a little bit too proud to just jump when she says jump. But I think there is this part of him that is really living in a lot of fear because Magnolia has just like left so many times. Like every time he makes a mistake, Magnolia just leaves him immediately. And he feels like he needs to create enough stability for himself that if Magnolia inevitably leaves him, that he will be okay by himself. That like he cannot trust her to be like a stable presence in his life. So he has to create stability within his own life. And he doesn't know how to do that with her. BJ goes back up to his apartment and he's thinking to himself, like, I need to cancel my therapist appointment. Like, I don't want to deal with that. And he's like really messed up and messed up about it. He's not actually like drunk or anything, but he decides to sleep with Jordan again. And as he's sleeping with her, he doesn't think about her, Jordan, once. He thinks about Magnolia the whole time. BJ, that's not good man behavior. Dump her. That would be the kind thing to do at this point. And then BJ and Henry text back and forth. That's the end of this chapter. And Henry is like, what did you do? Magnolia is currently crying in the bathroom and won't let anyone inside. And BJ's like, just leave it. But the very next day, there's a field trip. Everyone, and by everyone I mean Joe, Tara, BJ, and Magnolia, are going on a tour of some ruins for Tara's birthday because she wanted to do that for her birthday. Jordan wanted to come too, but Jonah lied and said there wasn't room on the tour. BJ was like, and so Jonah was like, sorry, pre-booked the tour, there's no room. And BJ is glad because he really needs the time alone with Magnolia to smooth over the situation from last night. Magnolia arrives to leave together, and she's wearing sunglasses, and BJ immediately knows it's really bad because Magnolia feels it is really a disservice to the world to hide her eyes. She has really beautiful eyes, and everyone should be able to look upon them at all times. And BJ's like, hey, can we chat? And Magnolia's like, no. She's in a really bad mood, and so is Tara. When Magnolia finally takes the sunglasses off, it's clear that she spent all night crying. And Jonah's like, what happened? So Jonah was not at... Where was everyone? Jonah was not in the conglomerate of people who convinced Magnolia to run over to BJ's house and confess her love. Magnolia says, I told BJ I was in love with him. And Joe's like, what did BJ say? And Magnolia said, nothing. And Joe was like, he's glaring daggers at BJ in the rear view. And Magnolia complains about how embarrassing it was to confess that she loved him and for him to say nothing back to her. And they fight over what happened back and forth in the car. And then Magnolia decides to start talking about all the boys she slept with. She's like, Tara, you remember how you were you need to tell me how Jack is in bed? I think I would like to tell you now. And Tara's like, no, thank you. I think that's actually bad. But Magnolia starts off anyway. And BJ's cutting in with all these asides. She's she's talking about how Jack is so fit, and BJ's like, I'm also very fit. Do you want me to take my shirt off? 6-pack. She starts listing all the boys that she slept with when she was in New York, and BJ is like, it's really messed up that you slept with Tom England's best friend. They're just being so messy in the backseat, and BJ is is so troubled by this, but he's trying not to let it show because he doesn't know how they've made such a mess of this, how they'll find their way back to each other. And he thinks to himself, and actually, what the hell? When she left me, it was just me and her, touched her and held her. And now that's 5 others, 5 whole other people who've seen, and maybe I am being a hypocrite. 7, that's not that many people. Could be me on a bad week. But she's not like that. She's not like me. At least she wasn't when she left me. She's watching me very closely now, reading me, seeing how I wear it, this new version of her. It feels like she's trying to prove to me that she's less mine than I think she is. But until last night, I didn't know she wanted to be mine still at all. I don't know what she's waiting for. Vindication, chastisement, judgment, forgiveness? I'd give her none of them. I'd give her my heart for free in a heartbeat, though, if she'd still take it. I wish I could pull her into my lap, let her rest, remind her I'm her safest place. I want to say sorry. Tell her I'm messed up and I love her and I'm done with the games. But I can't find the words. She took them back. Just say all those. What about those ones, BJ? Say that out loud. Say, I wish I could say, come sit with me. I'm your safest place. You can have my heart if you want it. Unfortunately, he can't. BJ does get her attention in the backseat. And he's like, hey, how's the weather, Parks? And for a minute, he thinks it's working. He sees her soften. And that maybe she will forgive him. But instead... Magnolia just says, I told you I loved you and you're asking me about the weather? F you. We're still in the car for another second, but now we're in Magnolia's perspective. She's feeling very vulnerable because she's not sure that BJ cares about her anymore. He didn't even flinch as she was listing off those names of all those boys that she had slept with, and she kind of expected him to. And so that almost feels okay, maybe he doesn't care about me at all. Then they arrive at the ruins. Magnolia is trying to give Tara and Jonah some space so they can be flirty, a little couple. And Magnolia starts flirting with our tour guide, Angus. Poor Angus really gets caught in the middle of this to distract her from the BJ situation. And Angus is like, are you into history? And Magnolia replies that she used to be into history until last night. And Angus is like, okay, well, I hope you still are a little bit because, that's why I'm here. And Magnolia flirts back. I might not be into history, but I still like educated men. And then BJ starts teasing her about Jack, and it turns into a fight between them. Again, Angus just, caught in the middle, trying to teach these children about ruins. Tara's really trying to learn something. They arrive at this burial cave, and it's pitch black and spooky. They climb inside. Magnolia thinks to herself, I love scariness. Me and danger has always been catnip for BJ. He can't help it. And as soon as they walk in, she can feel BJ is right behind her in case she falls, or to protect her. He's her protector. Oh my god, that Role Model album, which I am obsessed with, is giving Magnolia Parks. Is every music song I listen to giving Magnolia Parks? Yeah. You can't listen to it because of copyright. Tucker will sue me. It's closing time and I'm leaving. You're holding on to someone new. Are you still picking up the pieces? Am I still worried about you? Well, yes, I am, and I always will. Some protector. Am I guilty? Am I sorry? Do I miss you at the party? Am I dragging this forever? Am I thinking about December? It's September, but we're just into December for them because that's when they broke up. Am I wrecking reputation while you're making reservations? Am I lying to my mother that someday I'll find another? I do believe that song is actually about BJ. BJ singing that to Mags. He says, I'm lying to my mother that someday I'll find another. And you know what? Mrs. Valentine is not believing it for one single second. They're in the cave. Jonah makes a spooky noise. Immediately, BJ grabs Magnolia and, like, you know, tucks her into him. And Magnolia is, like, pressed up against his chest. And they, like, have this moment. And the moment ends. They exit the cave. And Tara says to Magnolia, like, what was that? And Magnolia doesn't know. But, like, something is brewing between them. So while Tara and Magnolia are having their little chat, BJ and Jonah are chatting. And BJ says to Jonah, he's like, I need to fix things with her. Please help me out. And BJ asks Jonah to slash the tires on his car, his brand new car. And Jonah is not thrilled because his car is only a week and a half old, but he does it. And then Tara and Magnolia come over to where they're standing. And Tara's like, what happens? What happened? You can see that Jonah's tire is busted. He, like, slashed it. Jonah's like, tire's flat. And Tara's like, what about the spare? And he's like, spare's flat too. And Tara's like, how? And Jonah's like, Henry and I went off-roading last night. And Magnolia's like, metaphorically? Like, what are you talking about? Jonah's like, you can check the PSI on it if you want, but, like, it's flat. The girls know nothing about tires, and so they have to take his word for it. BJ calls a taxi, but warns it's going to take forever since they're in the middle of nowhere. And so then they, like, separate again. BJ and Magnolia end up, like, resting on the hood of Jonah's car, and they're laying down and they're looking up at the stars. And BJ thinks to himself, I wonder if we'll ever not be like magnets, if there's a way to break the spell. I don't want to know. If there is, I don't want to know a thing about it. It's, like, really cold, and Magnolia's hugging herself, and BJ moves a little closer just to keep her warm. And Magnolia is, like, looking up at the stars, and she thinks to herself, they make me think of you. And Magnolia says, why? And Magnolia shrugs and says, faded, because we're written in them. Something stupid like that. And they, like, talk back and forth, sharing more of their, like, little metaphors. And then the group gets into the taxi. They head to a nearby hotel. In the taxi, BJ texts Jonah and is like, make sure they put me in a room with her. Just use Tara's birthday as an excuse. And Jonah goes along with it. Jonah is the number one biggest fan of Magnolia and BJ's relationship, Jonah. And at the front desk, BJ offers the guy $1,000 cash to tell the girls that there are only 2 rooms available. The guy is suspicious, obviously, and Jonah's like, don't even worry. It's just nothing creepy is happening. We just are trying to get the most annoying couple in the world back together. The girls are told there's only 2 rooms, and BJ says he and Magnolia will be, like, fine sharing. They'll work it out. They go upstairs. It is a pretty beautiful hotel room. And Magnolia says to BJ, you didn't seem super pleased with the situation. And BJ says, what can I say? Magnolia says, you didn't seem super pleased with the situation. And BJ thinks to himself, what can I say, Parks? I'm a thespian. Because obviously he orchestrated the situation. He is quite pleased with it. And then BJ starts asking Magnolia about Jack and, like, why they broke up. And Magnolia's like, well, I, like, can't love people anymore. I don't know how. And it's your fault. And BJ's like, ooh, ow. Shots fired. And then later, Magnolia's saying, like, why are you in this bedroom with me? And BJ's like, drew the short straw. And then Magnolia's like, I'm the short straw. It, like, hurts her feelings. She, like, feels she doesn't love it. Magnolia, he orchestrated this whole thing, bestie girl. Don't even worry. Magnolia goes in the bathroom. While she's in the bathroom, BJ texts Jordan to, like, let Jordan know that, like, they're spending the night at this hotel, that they got a flat tire, all that stuff. And then he's realizing that, like, Magnolia still has not come out of the bathroom. Like, what is she doing in there? And so he texts her, like, how's the weather in there? And Magnolia just texts back, F off. And then a few minutes later, BJ texts again, like, what are you doing? Please come back. And she, like, doesn't respond to either of those messages. And so he goes in the bathroom, and Magnolia has made herself a bed in the bathtub because BJ called sleeping in the same bed as her, drawing the short straw. And BJ tells her to get out. He's like, you're being ridiculous. Come on, come back to bed. She refuses. She's being, like, super dramatic, and BJ, like, scoops her out of the bathtub. And he thinks to himself, I love her in my arms, how she folds up in them, how she fits. My body grew up carrying her. She slots into the grooves with me. How many people can you say that about? No one but her. I still don't know how to tell her I love her back. What if she changes her mind? What if she leaves again? I need to learn how to build a life without her. I can't trust her to stay. She's left me every time, even when she promised she wouldn't. The sweetest. I love Beej. I love Beej so much. Now BJ and Magnolia are lying in bed together, and BJ starts thinking about the first summer that they were together, and they went on this like St. Bart's trip with the Valentines, and BJ remembers like the thrill of being able to like touch her, to like just like hold her hand, or to like drape an arm over the back of her chair, or just like these like little casual moments of touch, and how delighted she would be by them. He also remembers like climbing on things to impress her, but also loving the feeling of her like screaming for him to get down, because he just like loved that feeling of her worrying about him. And he tells a story of like their first like real kiss, and they're playing spin the bottle, and it very clearly lands on Paley, but BJ insists it lands on Parks. And BJ, in this memory, he thinks to himself, I'd probably still be kissing her to this very day if Jonah hadn't yelled, get a room. And then he continues a little later in the memory. When I was 15, I could kiss her so easily. Now, a decade later, after literal love and death and everything in between, I'd still mess it up. But I'm glad to be next to her now. We're complicated, but I always feel more with her. More something, more anything. More angry, more sad, more annoyed. But not now. Now I feel more nervous, more aware, more alive. I'm in love with her. Can I tell her that? I don't know. And then BJ says, Magnolia Parks. And Magnolia says, I love it when you say my name. And BJ says, yeah. And Magnolia says, yeah, I love how it sits in your mouth like you were supposed to say it all the time. And BJ thinks to himself, like, I am supposed to say it all the time. Like, that is the only word I could say. It's the only word I should be saying in my whole life. They're like nose to nose now. Magnolia's looking at him, and she says to him, like, you've grown up a lot this year. I'd smile at her if I could, but my heart is a hammer. And she's got as far as she'll go now. She won't kiss me first. She's waiting on me. Nose pressed against mine. Nose pressed against a door. She's waiting for me to open. I'm looking for the key. And then BJ does tell her he loves her. Touching Parks is like touching no one else. It's like coming home. Even before, when I used to touch her all the time, my hands on her body would brush away the heaviest of days. I think that's what we're supposed to do for each other. It's so sweet and beautiful. They hook up. BJ reflects, even kind of like shortly after it's happening, like how he doesn't know how he's going to feel about himself in the morning, but for now, like, he has no choice. Like, he almost has no choice but to like fall into bed with her. The next morning, we see some text messages between Magnolia and Bridget, when Magnolia is like letting Bridget know they hooked up, and Bridget's like, what about the girlfriend? And Magnolia's like, that's a tomorrow problem. I'm so sad for her, but so thrilled for me. Magnolia and BJ are lying in bed later that night, early the next morning, a little unclear, and BJ's joking around with her. You love an educated man? I'm going to have to get myself to university. And then Magnolia asks BJ to walk her through all of his new tattoos, because, and BJ's really reluctant because a lot of them are not nice, but Magnolia insists. And BJ has here's some of BJ's new tattoos. He has magnolias woven through the deer antlers on his deer that he has of her. He has the 2 dead bees. We already knew that. He has a tattoo that says fuck NYC. He has Carver and Hunniset on his fingers. Their schoolhouses at Bartley. Carver is his and Hunniset was Magnolia's, and Hunniset is on his middle finger. And Magnolia says, is there a reason my house is on your middle finger? And BJ says, yep. And then we have the dead Bambi, which makes Magnolia sad again. And BJ says, I was really drunk, Parks. And Magnolia says, you must have really hated me. And BJ goes, never. And then Magnolia's like, how many new ones did you get? And BJ's like, I don't know, 17, 18. And Magnolia's like, that is so reckless. And then Magnolia says, show me the ones I'll like. And he does. On his index finger of his left hand, he got a tiny storm cloud with a lightning bolt. The middle finger, there was a lilac already there, but now he also added a cloud with a sun behind it. And then on his ring finger, he has just like a little sun. It's the little weather forecast. Ah, cute. And then on his left wrist, he got a flower under a glass jar in the moon from the cover of The Little Prince, but instead of the flower there, he got lilacs instead. And then on his thigh, he got the lock from Dartmouth. And Magnolia says, I love that lock. And BJ says, yeah, me too. And then on the palm of his right hand, right near his thumb, he got the seed of a willow tree. And then BJ says to Magnolia, I missed you, Parks. Don't do that again. And Magnolia says, do what? And BJ says, leave me. Owie. She's about to. Ugh. The next morning, they're walking downstairs holding hands. Everyone is so excited, especially Jonah. They're finally back together. Tara calls it a birthday miracle. And Tara's like, what about Jordan. And BJ's like, I'm going to break up with her tonight or tomorrow, depending on what time we get home. It'll be done before, like, anyone can say anything. Like, I'll take care of it. And then Jonah calls Magnolia the other woman. Jonah, you can't do that, my beloved. I could throw him in a literal dumpster. And for the first time, Magnolia realizes what she's done to Jordan. And she thinks to herself, I've never even considered Jordan a real person until this moment. Didn't want to, didn't need to. She was an abstract pain in my ass until now. And now I realize she's a real person who might have real feelings for the boy of my dreams, who I just slept with last night. And BJ's like, it's not a big deal, Parks. And Magnolia's like, do you really think this is not a big deal? And BJ's like, honestly, Magnolia, I don't know. Like, I love you. You love me. We belong together. Like, Magnolia's like, except you belong to someone else right now. You've, like, made a commitment to someone else. And Magnolia starts to, like, get really upset. And she sees people filming them. And so she's trying to, like, calm herself. So this is not, like, a public spectacle. And Magnolia says, is this what you do when you're committed to someone? And BJ is like, you are the only person I have been committed to in my entire life, Magnolia. And Magnolia says, and yet you have had 2 girlfriends and you have cheated on both of them. Okay, BJ was trying so hard not to. The universe was conspiring against him. He didn't know how to break up with his girlfriend. He, like, really tried a couple times. And he, like, really tried not to sleep with Magnolia while he was still dating her. I understand that he still messed up, okay? I'm not saying that it's excusable, but I'm just saying he did try really hard. I don't think we're given enough credit for that. And then BJ says, am I ever going to be good enough for you? And Magnolia thinks to herself, he says that and he means it. The hurt is old, I can see that. A lake monster that's lurked beneath the surface until now. It wanders up to the shore and stands there between us. Is he good enough for me? The thought has literally never crossed my mind. Not once. And I don't care if he's not. I want him anyway. I don't know what good enough even means. All I want from him, the only thing I ever need from him in the world, is to know that I can trust him. And that I don't know. And BJ's like, okay, are you just going to run back to New York now? Magnolia's walking away, and BJ just says, give Rush my best, because he assumes that Magnolia is just going to run into the bed of a boy. The dumbest boy in all the lands. Bless his sweet baby heart. BJ takes a separate car home. The girls and Jonah ride together, and BJ's ostracized to a separate car. Okay. BJ is trying to figure out what to do next. He doesn't even know if it's possible to, like, fix things with Magnolia now, and he thinks about when he had asked Magnolia at that end of that fight, like, when am I going to be good enough for you? And she, like, didn't answer. And now he, like, feels like that might be the answer. Like, maybe there is no way for him to be good enough for Magnolia. And he's like, at least it came off quick. So it was like ripping off a Band-Aid. And he says, but it didn't feel like ripping off a Band-Aid. It felt like ripping off a skin graft. Like, I needed that there. This was not something that I was going to remove at some later point. Like, this ripped a hole in me. And BJ, like, goes home and he thinks he's going to end things with Jordan. But, like, now he's not. And he thinks to himself, loving something as much as I love her messes you up a bit. Have I said that before? Maybe it's worth it if you get to the end and there's a happy ending. But what if there isn't? What if there was no such thing as good enough for Magnolia all along? Why even try? The chasm her absence creates in me cracks wide open, and I only know of 2 ways to fill it. And he doesn't want to do drugs again. And so he goes and he sleeps with Jordan. No! Dumbest boy in all the land. He gets home. Does he break up with Jordan? No. Could he have broken up with her? Yes. We could have fixed things with Parks. If he would have broken up with Jordan, they could have gotten their happily ever after. It would have been fine. He does not do that. He tells Jordan that he hooked up with Magnolia, and she is, like, totally cool with it. She's, like, weirdly cool with it. And then they hook up. That night, there is an event at one of Jonah's clubs. BJ's feeling not great about himself, because he shouldn't. He knows he should not have slept with Jordan, but it's too late. He already did it. He also knows that he should have broken up with her. But he didn't bring Jordan to the event, at the very least. And then she arrives, and Jonah is like, hey, have you guys sorted everything out yet? And BJ's like, no, I think we're done for real this time. And Jonah is like, you always think you guys are done for real. And BJ's like, no, the problem is I never think we're actually done. And Jonah's like, come on, you guys were so close. And BJ is like, yeah, you're part of the problem, you with your other woman comment. Like, we would have been fine if you hadn't have said that. And Jonah was like, I didn't think that joke would go like that. Not in my wildest dreams. And Jonah's like, did you at least end it with Jordan? And BJ's like, no, I hooked up with her when I got home. And Magnolia overhears this part of the conversation. And Magnolia freaks out because Magnolia hoped that BJ would call her when they got home. And then we flash back in time a little bit. And Jonah and Magnolia is arriving at this event with Tara and Henry. She's like nervous to see BJ again. She just had needed a moment to like sort out her thoughts. She is like, calm down. Tara's like, just don't toss the first grenade, like it'll be okay. Magnolia heads straight over to see BJ, and she overhears him saying that he didn't break up with Jordan. Not only that, but he slept with her. And she immediately gets like nauseous. She's like horrified at this. She runs to the bathroom. She realizes that like BJ and her had slept together that very morning, and then he went home and slept with Jordan, like in the span of the same day. And she feels gross. She feels like one of the girls that he like used and discarded all of last year. She like runs and throws up in the bathroom. She's crying in there. She like is like looks at BJ as she's leaving, begging him with her eyes to like leave her alone. Henry comes in and he crawls into the bathroom stall to sit with her, which is like true MVP behavior. What a sweet, 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 sweet man. And Magnolia says, it takes a good friend to crawl on the floor of a girls' club bathroom when you're wearing white pants. And she thinks to herself, I fell for the wrong brother. Henry is the better one. He's just not my one. 100%. 100%. And then Henry's comforting her. He's like wiping her face. And then he says to her, there's no one in the world worth Magnolia Parks sitting on the floor of a club bathroom. And Henry says, this is my fault. I shouldn't have told you to tell him. I thought it would fix things. Clearly, he's not ready. And as they leave, BJ is like waiting to talk to Magnolia. But Magnolia doesn't want to talk to him. Henry steps in and is like, no, you are done. She is off limits to you now. Like, you've messed up enough. You have hurt her enough. Like, we're done for now. In the middle of this, Magnolia is like, I told you I loved you. And BJ says, and then you left. Like always, you ran away. And Magnolia's like, I just went home. And BJ says, to who? And Magnolia says, I just went home to no one. And Magnolia realizes that BJ assumed that she had immediately gone to hook up with one of these boys. And it like really hurts her feelings that he thinks so little of her. And Magnolia internally says, my eyes go dark as if there were curtains. If there were curtains, they'd be flapping. The water would be choppy. The animals would start behaving all particular, frantically searching for cover. Good. They should be. BJ frowns, sensing a shift in the air. Batten down the hatches. Ring the town bell. He swallows. What's the face? I shake my head at him. I push past him to leave. Where are you going? He calls after me. I'm going to Central Park at midnight. The best. The literal best. That's the end of part 1. That is like truly, we have part 1. I mean, this is video 2, but like part 1 of the actual Magnolia Parks book. And so we're just going to end things there because Daisy Haites kind of like picks up. The next Daisy Haites chapter is like right after that. And I feel like this is a better stopping point. Okay, so that is it for this next part of the Magnolia Parks Daisy Haites recap. I love coming and dipping back into London with the girlies. Hope you had fun. If you want to know when the next one is coming out, obviously subscribe. I will see you there. Have a great one. Bye.